Hey there, Gavin Gu here from UltimateReloader.com. I'm here again with Craig Anrzen from Area 419. Thanks, Craig, for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Gavin.
That's right. We're filming a bunch of videos. This time we're talking about Maverick. Maverick is a suppressor, but it's more than just a suppressor. It's a system. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to tell you all about Maverick from a technology standpoint and a product standpoint. Then, of course, we're going to go out to one of the ranges here, take some shots, take a look at how Maverick performs with recoil, with sound reduction, with sight picture retention.
Absolutely.
And then kind of recap. I haven't tried this yet. I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to it too. So let's get to work.
Yeah, so let's talk about what Maverick is and who Maverick is for.
The Maverick is a solution to a problem that we had as high volume shooters of we wanted to be able to control the rifle and retain sight picture like with a break, but not suffer the downside of a break that can be concussive or loud or create fatigue over time. So we wanted to get the control of a break, the comfort of a suppressor, and build it into a package that's modular and useful whether you're a high volume competition shooter or a serious long range hunter that wants a little more control of that rifle.
Let's talk about one of the primary scenarios for Maverick, which is PRS. In PRS, recoil has a huge effect on your performance as a shooter. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Recoil is a buzzword among PRS shooters. We all want less of it, and the reason we want it is because we want to be able to see what's happening downrange with more efficacy. So not only do we want to see that bullet land, we want to see it fly if we can.
Trace.
We want to see trace. Or if you got the right lighting, sometimes you can even see a glint off the bullet. That's the real good stuff.
Right.
But recoil, I think, gets a bad name because in reality, it's all sight picture retention. A lot of the rifles that you're going to see at Masters are going to be 20 to 24 pounds, and they're shooting between a 6 BR and a 6 GT or a 6 Creedmoor. Really soft recoiling rifles from a pure energy standpoint.
Sure.
But what happens is we shoot a lot from unsupported positions, or we've just got a game changer in the middle of the rifle, and you can get a lot of flip. So it's not necessarily that rifle tracking back that's beaten on your shoulder with these soft shooting rifles.
Right.
It's trying to keep that sight picture square. So with the Maverick, what we were able to do is take some of the benefits of slowing that gas down, building a self-timing brake with our taper self-timing Hellfire system that can give us compensatory muzzle blast. We can take advantage of that gas and keep the rifle tracking really flat while still reducing recoil to the point that you're going to get you're going to be able to see things downrange through the optic when you pull the trigger that you just can't see with anything else.
So now, in terms of who it's for, PRS is an obvious scenario here, but there's another scenario where you might be shooting off of a barricade and where you have to land your shot on target. And to me, that's the small or big game hunting scenario.
Many of us hunt. And we all know if you're a real hunter, you don't often get to shoot from prone. So you're not on your belly, you're not on a bipod. You're typically up, and whether that's shooting from a fence post or the hood of a truck, or you're shooting from a tripod.
Or sticks. I like to shoot off of sticks a lot.
Keeping that gun still and being able to watch that bullet land, you need to know what happened with that bullet. So having more ability to keep that rifle still and see downrange is really, really important if you want to make an ethical kill.
Yep. So that's kind of a couple of the primary demographics of who this is for. Let's talk about kind of how the Maverick was conceived and how it was designed. Of course, it's an Area 419 product, so it's got tapers built into the
the construction of it is really unlike anything else. But the genesis of the product is John and I are headed to SHOT Show 2 years ago. And at the time, there was a suppressor on the market that promised to reduce recoil significantly, but it was a traditional design suppressor. And other than the fact that it was really heavy, we didn't see how that made any sense. So in our mind, we thought, putting a brake on the end of a suppressor in a traditional sense doesn't make a lot of sense, because if the suppressor is doing its job of slowing down and depressurizing that gas, which is what creates that sound reduction, it's not going to leave enough fast, high-pressure gas at the end for the brake to do its job, because a brake requires that high-pressure gas.
Makes sense.
So our thought was, on a napkin, what if we take this suppressor, cut it in half, and put a brake in the middle, and then make it modular to go back and forth? And the Maverick's born. And our 8-inch version, and what I've got in the box here is a 9.2 with an extra part in it. Our 8-inch version is really not much more complicated than that. It's a suppressor that you can unthread the backside of and put a brake in the middle if you want, and give you that versatility of, do you want a traditionally quiet, high-performance suppressor, or do you want something with our recoil-reducing brake setup that is unlike anything else?
So why don't we get it out of the case, do a sort of pseudo unboxing here to describe the different parts and pieces.
All right. So we ship all these in a nice SKB case from our friend Brack at Patriot Cases. We want them to be protected, and we know that over the life of a suppressor, you can send it in to be cleaned, you're going to travel with it. We wanted something to protect them, and we like nice packaging. Everybody likes the box to be nice. So when you open the box, you're going to get an instructional card. It's a suppressor. Please read the instructions. You spent nice money to get a Maverick. Read them front and back. And then you've got the parts. This is a 9.2-inch kit. You'll get, whether you chose a Hellfire or Sidewinder mounting system, you'll get your universal adapter. There's a wrench that comes with it that you can use. You get a suppressor height, you get a lot of carbon in it. You might want help popping it off at the end of the barrel.
Well, the nice thing about this universal mount here is that if you have a Hellfire and a Maverick, you can just leave this on your muzzle.
This is going to live on your gun. You can run back and forth from our Hellfire, our 2-port Hellfire, a little different device, our linear flash suppressor. You can run a Maverick. We've got suppressor mounts that span most of your Silencer Co. line, a lot of your Dead Air products, Thunder Beast products. This is a system that we'll talk more about at another time, but it's super versatile. And then you've got the can itself. So the core portion, this is your serialized part. This is always going to be in play in configuration with your Maverick. It's got a left-hand threaded end with a male taper on the end, and everything mounts to this point. You've also got on this side, this is 2 pieces, and they're nested together for nice shipping.
Left-hand threads on everything.
Left-hand threads on everything. It's plausible that you could get the can stuck to itself, but it's not going to end up stuck to your rifle or with your adapter stuck in the back side of it, which can be a real problem when you start pumping carbon into a can.
Yeah.
The second part you're going to get is what we call our Stage 1 module, and this, if you buy the 9.2-inch version, you'll get this. If you buy the 8-inch, this is left out. So this is another part you'll get. This is the Maverick brake self-timing, and this is the Stage 2 baffle stack, caliber specific, just like the Stage 1 here. It is full of traditional suppressor baffles. So this is everything that comes in the box, and these parts can be configured into the full system. So you want to take those one at a time?
Yeah, let's look at each of the configs.
All right. Move this a bit. Configuration 1. This is the 5-inch moderator. We use a thread protecting cap on the end that doesn't add any function other than protecting those threads. This is not going to reduce sound a tremendous amount, but it's going to knock down just a little bit. So let's say you've got a rifle that you want to take out in the woods and knock down just a little bit of sound, better than a bare muzzle. It's definitely not going to be OSHA levels, 140 decibel hearing safe.
Yep.
But it's something that can cut a little bit of
a shot here and there is not going to destroy your hearing, kind of a thing.
That's up to you. We're not going to say that.
Okay.
We can then start to go a little longer. The next configuration would be the 6-inch suppressor configuration, or 5-inch suppressor configuration, sorry. This is going to give you a traditional K-can kind of sound profile. So depending on your rifle, you still may not be at that 140 decibel number that is considered widely hearing safe, but it's significantly quieter. There are other popular suppressors on the market that are also right in that teeter-totter area, like a Thunder Beast Ultra 5 or some of your Dead Air K-cans that you may get similar performance out of. This one's really the nice one if you're going to go hunting. So if you're looking for a suppressor system that gives you real kind of top to bottom performance, this is almost like a freebie can in the system that is part of that overall price point. We'll then go to our next longest configuration, which is 8-inch. This is kind of the traditional suppressor size. This, from a sound performance standpoint, does very, very well. This is going to meter just a little quieter than, let's say, your Omega or your Ultra 7. They're new Ultra 7s. I haven't had one of those to meter yet. They made some improvements. But this is, in its class, traditionally quiet. Strong performance. I think you'll really like it, and we'll get it out of the range and shoot it. You can then also configure this thing.
Would that be a popular configuration for PRS matches, that kind of thing?
I don't think so, because if you own this in a match, you're gonna shoot it with a brake on it.
Okay, gotcha.
And with the brakes, and we'll get to those, they're never going to be hearing safe, but you're never going to be without ears on at a match because everybody around you is shooting with a brake. You then have the opportunity to, with the 9.2-inch kit, put this thing together at 9.2 inches. This is going to be the quietest. You're going to get the best tone out of it. It sounds really, really good, and it's, all things being said, everything in my hand here is titanium. It's light, dissipates heat well. It's a really nice, good sounding suppressor. We then have the more unique configurations here, and that is our braked configurations. So if you are shooting a break in a match right now, the configuration that you'll likely like the most is the 5.5-inch break configuration. This is going to give you control of the muzzle that is as good or better, especially when you're looking at sight retention, than any break on the market. And we like brakes, and we make brakes, and we love our brakes. But this gives you something that is unique and that is different. And we'll make sure to shoot this one. It doesn't actually reduce versus a bare muzzle sound very much, but versus a muzzle brake, you're going to see 12 to 13 decibels of sound reduction. And what that turns into, decibels and sound are a very odd thing.
Sure, logarithmic and whatnot.
Right, and different things have different multiples. So at the shooter ear, this is going to, versus a brake, reduce loudness by half, and is going to reduce sound pressure, which is what largely people will consider concussion or blastiness. Sure.
Anyone that shot 50 BMG knows all about that pressure wave.
That pressure wave that comes through. You can wear Ear Pro, but there's a pressure wave that comes off the rifle that comes through your face, and you can feel it in your sinuses, and especially as a PRS-style shooter, shooting 200 rounds in a weekend, that can create a lot of fatigue. I know a lot of buddies, and I was one of them, that I would start to get a little bit of a headache, 2, 3, 4 round stages into day 2. I just start feeling a little swimmy. You've had a lot of that pressure come through your sinuses over a couple days, and it's tough, and you just don't feel right for another day or two.
Yeah.
This was really what I wanted out of the system when we started, was I wanted to be able to still control my gun like a brake, but not feel like I had been beat up for a whole weekend shooting, a dozen 2-day matches a year, and then all the other 1-day in training we do. So this is going to reduce your loudness by half and your sound pressure by 3/4. The difference when you're behind the gun is huge, and it also allows you to stay in the gun better. When you shoot with a brake, you're looking at what is 165 decibels or so, rough number, at the shooter ear. If I were to put an anvil on the table, give you a hammer, and say, Gavin, smack that anvil, you do it and we both flinch.
Right.
And we know it's coming, and there's no real way to stop this. And your brain and your mind do this too when you shoot with a brake. I have conversations with guys that are shooting at the very highest level, guys that are winning big matches, that are taking home big trophies at the end of the year. And I have to say to them, hey man, I know you like your gun with your brake on it, and I'm glad you have a brake on it, but you're probably flinching a little bit because it's a physiological reaction. So being able to slow down that wave that comes off the gun and comes into the shooter is really meaningful when you're trying to see that impact, pick up that bullet as it flies a little bit earlier, or catch it on a shorter range target. It makes a huge difference.
Well, and every nanosecond in the match counts, and if you're losing concentration during that recoil impulse or that muzzle blast, that's just one more
it's
thing
a new
to contend
stage.
with.
You're in that first position. You miss that first impact because you just couldn't get in on the rifle, and it was a skied target, so you miss where it goes. That's a point, because now you're going to shoot. You're going to make some guess at your adjustment, but you might not be right because you don't know where that bullet went.
Right.
So if you can stay in the gun, you can stay in that shot, you can pick up that bullet as it flies, you're going to have a greater chance of, if you hit, correct to center so that you have a greater probability of hitting throughout, or if you missed, finding it and being able to make the appropriate correction. So this is the 5.5-inch, and this is kind of the flagship braked setup. But then we have some guys that prefer the 6.5-inch brake setup. The brake is designed with very much of a compensator role, in that we vent much more gas up versus down. And all of our brakes have always been designed this way, but this one's much more aggressive because of the way that gas is being slowed down and used. So the brake will time just like our Hellfire or our Sidewinder, and it grabs on the taper and retention ring. Some guys like to shoot it this way. You get a lot of the performance of the 5.5, but you also get that little bit different feel. It comes at you a little slower, it's a little softer, it's maybe a little more comfortable. So that's the final of the 6 configurations to work through.
Cool. So let's talk about a couple other things. One is the rating for this. I shoot 300 PRC, I shoot 308, I shoot kind of everything kind of in that class down to 6s.
Yep.
In terms of the 30 cal magnums, is this brake suitable for that kind of a scenario?
So today, no. What this thing is rated for officially from us is any short action caliber or any short action cartridge over 20 inches of barrel length.
Okay.
Or you can shoot it on your 16-inch AR.
Gotcha. So 6.5 PRC short action, would that still be in the envelope?
Perfectly fine.
Gotcha.
Even like a 300 WSM, obviously your traditional competition rounds of a 6.5 Creedmoor, 6BR, everything in that world works out fairly well. One of the things about the construction here, which is exciting for us, is it is totally rebuildable, totally shop serviceable. So if something bad happens, and let's say you get a baffle strike, we can pull it apart, we can rebuild it, we can get it back to you. You don't have a ruined can.
And what is the NFA tracked item, the serialized item?
So when you buy a 9.2 inch Maverick suppressor from us, what you are buying is this, with all of its parts.
Gotcha.
So you're buying the complete suppressor. The fact that it is modular or user configurable, that's on you. But you better keep all these parts, because if you ever get in trouble and you have to prove that you still have the product, you have to be able to configure and produce the 9.2 inch suppressor as marked.
Gotcha.
So that is the legality of the entire system, and it's how all modular suppressors kind of work inside the NFA.
Gotcha. So if you did get the baffle strike, what would be the process to get that repaired? Can you send?
You'd shoot us an email. We'd give you an RMA number. You'd send it back in. We'd
whole-
fix it.
the whole
and we'd send it back to you.
Gotcha.
Yep. Send the entire thing back to us. You had a nice case for a reason.
Yep.
Ship it back to us. We can repair it and ship it right back to you. The nice thing about NFA repairs is they are door to door.
Yes.
You own this product. You're not an SOT. You can ship it from your location to our location. We can return it and ship it back to where it came from. So it's not a new transfer. It's not something that you're necessarily having to go find an NFA or a Class 3 dealer somewhere. We can service you directly with suppressors.
The other question I had, and yeah, I actually had a can where I had an issue and I sent it back. They sent it door to door. It was like a week.
Yeah.
End to end. That was
really nice.
A lot better than waiting for your tax stamp. Let's just put it that way. I also see a 6.5 here. Tell me about, is that a particular configuration, or are there different?
So the three things that are configurable is what is your mount style? This one's a Hellfire. It goes on our Hellfire universal adapter. We also have our Sidewinder brake system, which is very similar to the Hellfire, just expanded. It's grown a little bit, more meant for magnums. So you're going to pick Hellfire Sidewinder on the mount. You're then going to pick your length. Do you want 9.2 or do you want 8? And basically you're choosing if you'd like this piece or not that's in the center. And then you're going to pick your caliber, and that's going to be 6.5 or 30.
Gotcha.
This core unit, they're all the same. They're not caliber specific, because we like having that extra space and that extra gas clearance to feed the brake. And the brakes are all kind of caliber agnostic up to 30. You can shoot a 308 and a 6 mil, doesn't matter. But this portion, the stage 1, and then the stage 2 baffle stack, those are caliber specific of 6.5 or 30.
Gotcha.
And you can always shoot smaller, a 6 mil in either one of them. And you can shoot a 6.5 and a 30, but don't shoot your 30 cal in a 6.5.
No, that would be very bad.
Right.
Wow, lots here going on. And what I'm thinking next would be cool would be, let's head out to the range. Let's get some trigger time with all this stuff. We'll try a couple of the configurations and give it a little bit of spin. And then we'll come back and talk about what we experienced.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, so we're here at the Ultimate Reloader Mid-Mountain 100-yard range.
It's beautiful, by the way, guys.
This is typical fall weather, kind of between, the sun and the snow. We got the rain, but we got a roof over our heads. We brought up a barricade. This is a 55-gallon plastic drum. We've got a Game Changer bag. We've got the 25 Creedmoor rifle that you saw on the channel recently. Here's what I'm thinking we do is we kind of build things up. We go from bare muzzle to Hellfire, and then to the two different configurations with the brake, the Maverick.
And what I'm hoping you'll get a sense of is what all the different configurations do with control of the rifle and sight picture from a non-prone position. When you're prone, everything gets subtle, everything's washed out, but when it really counts, when you're in a position, you need to see that rifle track and bullet fly. This is where it matters. So I think you're gonna like what you find here.
Yep. Okay. So reverse threads here. I'm gonna take off the Hellfire. That's gonna pop. Yep.
It's all left-hand thread. The collar then help you defeat the taper and get it loose.
Very nice. Okay.
And now we're shooting bare muzzle.
Okay. So I'm gonna load up the magazine, and then we'll be on target.
All right.
A lot of vertical rise. Definitely some stout recoil too. All right, so we just put the Hellfire back on. See what that does here at 100 yards. Wow. Okay, so here we are with that Maverick 5.5-inch braked version. Well, that's nice. So here we are with the Maverick 9.2-inch configuration. I'm going to actually remove the ears for this. Interesting.
Yeah, you're getting your cracky from under the roof, but...
Yep. Definitely a different kind of push there. Need to tune that mag. Must have hit a rock.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. I actually haven't shot the same rifle with the same ammo, just back to back with and without a break, much less also throwing a suppressor into the mix. That was really cool.
Yeah, and as a guy that shoot a lot of different ways, there are definite things that a break does really well, and definite advantages to a suppressor. And what I think we hit on, and what I think you experienced, is with the Maverick setup, and either 5.5 or 6.5. They're a little different. We shot the 5.5. You get really a heavy majority of both of those advantages packed into one.
Yes.
So you'll see, especially when we go back and we watch the film, you'll be able to see and dissect a little bit the way the rifle tracks.
Yep.
If we had a longer range to get to, or somewhere where we could really see impacts, you would very much see what's happening to that reticle over the course of the rifle tracking. The Maverick delivers a muzzle device that'll have it's not recoil heavy.
Right.
It tracks very flat, and it's really comfortable to shoot, and I think you got a sense of that.
Yeah, let me walk through what I experienced step by step. So with the bare muzzle, a lot of rifles I own, I've never shot with a bare muzzle.
Right.
Because why would you? You don't typically need to, configured for whatever shooting application you're shooting. With the bare muzzle here, the recoil wasn't horrible. 25 Creedmoor is still friendly.
Yeah,
definitely.
it's not Grandpa's 300 Win Mag.
No.
It's nothing like that.
But it definitely, the sharp muzzle rise was what I noticed, the most. I was like, I don't know, 10 feet high by the time, it had come to the top. And then throwing the brake on, a dramatic difference, of course. Right. It feels good. It's like, it's snappy, but sight picture retention is really good. But you have that blast wave in the face to deal with. Right?
And you'll catch yourself over time anticipating that. And anticipation is never good when you're trying to break a clean trigger. So that anticipation from a break is really, for me, the downside of a break. The upsides obviously outweigh the downsides, and brakes are great products, and we love our brakes. But we knew that downside existed. So what you shot next was our answer to it.
Yeah, and that was, like you described, a true hybrid where you have the brake holding things, and then you also have a little bit more push, right, with the suppressor. I think of a suppressor as a long recoil impulse. It's friendly, but it pushes you for a while, right, over a much greater length of time, and that can disrupt your sight picture. So really interesting combination of the two different effects. And then we went to the long Maverick configuration. It was more push, but even looking, like you were saying, with the humidity that we've got out here, you can see the smoke coming out of the muzzle really well. Completely different patterns between the bare muzzle, which was just this like diffuse blast, and then the Hellfire was just, porting out the sides.
Yeah, the bad side of a rifle is you have to push a ton of hot, fast, high-pressure gas out of that muzzle. So our approach between brakes and, the Maverick and your traditional style suppressors is, how do you manage something that is going to be a negative? I mean, if we could shoot zero recoil and shoot laser beams, it'd be wonderful, but we can't. How can we take this necessary evil of a rifle and turn it into something that is less bad? All we're doing is mitigating a bad, and it's not necessarily turning it into a good, because good would just be make it go away. But how do we manage it to give you the most appropriate benefit you can get, or to reduce the negative effects most efficiently in the way that you need them?
And with this system, you do have the flexibility to tune it to your application, right? Like I can see now with the short configuration with the brake, you have the advantage of a different type of recoil experience, but you have the downside of less ear protection.
Right.
So if I was hunting, I would probably use the long configuration.
Sure.
I wouldn't worry about hearing protection. We have a little bit more crack under the roof here. You always have that. If I'm shooting a brake, it resonates, you know, a lot more than when you're out in the field or whatever. And then if I was going to shoot a PRS match, I do think I would shoot the short Maverick config with the brake, because it does, it's a more compact package, right? When you're coming in and out of barricades.
More maneuverability, more ability, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have the braking, and then you also have the suppressor that's going to get rid of that blast in the face, which is really nice. And then there's also advantages to a straight up brake, so it's really going to depend on what your needs are and what you're shooting, and you know what you respond to as a shooter. That's my thinking on it.
Definitely, we agree.
Okay. So here's the deal. If you click on that first link in the video description, we're going to have an article. The article will have all of the information that we covered in this video, which was a lot, broken down kind of component by component, all the different configurations of this Maverick system, the mount system, all of that. Here's what I'd also like to know is, what do you think? Are you running a suppressor for PRS or for hunting? What are you running, and do you like it or not? Drop a comment. We're going to start a discussion. Do you have a Maverick? Are you using it for hunting or competition? Drop that comment and we'll start a discussion specifically about Maverick. Also, you're going to want to make sure that you're subscribed with notifications, because I've got more PRS content coming up. I've got more rifle build content and more Area 419 gear that I'm going to be using and reviewing. Thank you, Craig, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. I'm sorry the weather wasn't better. We couldn't be shooting out to 1,200 yards.
It's beautiful. What are you talking about?
Next time, right?
Next time.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. I got shirts at the Ultimate Reloader store. I'm on Patreon. Links in the video description. Until next time, happy shooting and happy reloading.